Rock Shoot Podcast. This is going to be episode number 12. Got a great guest for you today, Izzy Presley. He is the host of Another Effin' Podcast. Yeah, that's right. Great title, right? Another fucking podcast, just what we all need. So I enjoy his podcast. He's also, I guess he hosts the Monsters of Rock Cruise, which sounds like an awesome gig. He does stand-up comedy, and he's in an Ace Frehley cover band. I think he's writing a movie too, so I'm going to ask him about all this stuff and his background. Seems like an interesting dude. I've enjoyed his podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts because I need to interview the guests a lot of times, and I have to do research, so I end up listening to a lot of rock-centered podcasts. But he's had some rock stars on there, but also some other podcasters, and he's had Eddie Trunk, Ricky Rockman used to host Headbangers Ball, Adam Carolla and the Vinnie Tortorich guy, like those two guys, and comedian Craig Gass, who I've also interviewed. He also has porn stars on there, so quite the variety there. All right, welcome Izzy Presley. Izzy, how you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, wiping out the eye cheese and sucking down some liquid diabetes over here in beautiful downtown Burbank. How are you, buddy?
Great, just great. So you're the host of Another Effin' Podcast. So my first question is, did you try to say another fucking podcast and they wouldn't let you? And is that why you call it Another Effing Podcast?
I thought for the marketing side of it, for the logo, Another Effin' Podcast. And then I worked off the ECW logo because I'm a wrestling dork. But on the show, it's called Another Fucking Podcast.
Okay.
I just figured for the marketing side of it, and for like iTunes and all that stuff, Another Effin' Podcast.
Right. No, that's smart. Cool. So, not to get too historical here, but you're from central Minnesota. I don't really know a lot about your background other than you're from central Minnesota. Is that?
I am. Beautiful downtown St. Cloud. It's about an hour northwest of Minneapolis. In the 80s, it used to be a huge party town in the 80s. Like it was 85, I think it was. St. Cloud State University was like number one in Playboy in the party schools.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's, it's small town, but it's not super small town, but you still got that small town mentality. So
gotcha. So, and then you worked as a sports and music director and a sports writer. So are you a Vikings fan, or you Twins, or you do all the
Vikings, Twins, Wild. I'm not a big basketball guy, but the hockey, the baseball, and the football is what I really concentrated on when I was up there. But I mean, my heart, like hockey wise, my heart still does lie with the Stars, because once you get a hockey team ripped away from you, it sticks with you forever. It's like when the Wild play the Stars, it's like watching my ex-wife fight my new girlfriend, who I wish was still my ex-wife.
Right. No, I'm from Seattle. Yeah, we had the Sonics basketball team, and then they turned into the Oklahoma, whatever they are. And so, yeah, it's really weird to see them play. And not that I was a huge Sonics fan. I was more of a Seahawks guy. But, yeah, it's still strange when these teams move. I don't like it. But
back when the Seahawks had like attractive uniforms.
Which would the old ones, or they had
the
three different kinds?
Days. Those are cool looking.
Yeah.
These new ones are just disgusting. They look like USFL rejects.
Yeah, it's took me a while to get you, but I'm actually used to it now. I actually think they look cool. When they first came out, I was definitely on that band, the same wavelength as you. But now maybe I'm used to them, but I like, probably too, because we won so much in those uniforms. I like them better. I mean, I like the old ones too. I have a Cortez Kennedy jersey and Steve Largent, all those old guys. So
you don't have a Bosworth jersey?
You know what? I will send you a picture after this. My buddy dressed as the Bosworth this year for our fantasy football draft, and he nailed it. It's amazing.
Nice.
It's legendary.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool. So, speaking of fans of different things, you got to tell me about this. I wanted to do the podcast originally at 1 p.m. and you said, no, I can't miss Days of Our Life. I couldn't tell if you were kidding. Are you really a Days of Our Life fan, or what?
I am a Days of Our Lives junkie. I've been watching it since grade school. But
really?
Ironically, I had a chance to take a nap because they got these fires going on. So they've decided to broadcast the news instead of broadcast Days of Our Lives. It's like, don't they know people have priorities? Don't they know that I need my stories? God damn it.
Yeah. So what do they post it tomorrow then, or you just don't see that day?
Oh, it'll replay at night.
Oh,
at some point. But of course I'll be sleeping or drunk.
Okay. But so you were in Minnesota before, but then you moved to California in 2013. Basically, you said kind of just for a change of scenery, but that turned into you kind of networking with all these entertainment professionals and kind of following the dream of the podcast and all that stuff. So that's when you started another effing podcast, right?
Well, I knew when I was coming out, that's the only thing I knew I was going to do when I came out here. I was in
your radio days in Minnesota and stuff. Like
I
knew
did
some people.
I did a few people like Larry Moran from the Monsters of Rock Cruise is one of the few people that I knew. Stevie Rochelle from Tough and Metal Sludge. I knew him.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you
just through the internet.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay. But I was going to ask you about that. That's your theme song is from isn't Stevie Rochelle from Tough and the Cheeseheads with Attitudes? He does your theme song. Right?
Oh God, let's not talk about the Cheeseheads with Attitudes. You're not a Packers guy, are you?
No, but I was always fascinated reading about it in Metal Edge that he had this like kind of like comedy music band thing that was a Packer thing. I was just like, I was like curious. I was like, what is this? Because you couldn't, I don't think you could like buy the CD or anything, but it was just interesting.
Oh, you can. Oh no, it's available.
Oh, okay.
And they go up and they play at Lambeau. It's ridiculous. Packer fan is out of their fucking mind. Yeah, I love Stevie to death. He's one of my great buddies.
That's cool.
Just like ripping on Packer fan.
Yeah.
But no, dude,
I'm a Seahawks guy all the way. So
it just happened. You know, shit just happened. I got a gig hosting, being the fill-in host at the Ultimate Jam Night, which when that split from Lucky Strike where it was and went to the Whiskey, and then I got called to host the one at Lucky Strike. And it's just like I've met so many people through that, and it's like, pretty much everybody that's going to be in my my country band now, they're all pros that I've met through there.
Oh, you're going to start a country band? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a pretty stellar lineup. I'm the weak link, but
what now? You play guitar and sing, right?
I play guitar and sing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So getting back to the podcast, so I know that. What do you think of like podcast rivalries? Like, I mean, obviously I don't feel that way because I invited you to come on my podcast, but do you feel like podcasts are in competition with each other?
No, I don't think so
there's
at all, because I think everybody has their own little niche, you know, and everybody does their own little thing. And look, this is the problem. And I know this. I mean, I do have somewhat of a name, but I'm still a nobody, especially in the podcasting world.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm not going to get famous doing a podcast. I know I'm not going to get rich doing a podcast because I'm not already famous. But I love going on other podcasts because it's all promo and it is what it is. I mean, there's one guy that has beef with me, and
I was going to ask you about that. So his name is Dr. Fuck or whatever, but it's F-U-K-K. So he ranted. He ranted about you.
It's because he's a Kiss fan, like
Dr. Love.
And Dr. Love, right? And what happened was, I do Three Sides of the Coin every once in a while, which is a Kiss-based podcast, and he was on 2 weeks in a row, and then I was on, and his ratings went down, and my ratings went down that 1 week too, and they put up this poll. Who do you guys like better, Izzy or Dr. Fuck? Well, they put up the poll before my episode came out. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to have some fun with this. I'm assuming this guy has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And me being the wrestling geek that I am, I went on my show and I cut a promo, a heel promo like you would not believe. I was putting him over. I was making fun of him. I was doing exactly what a good heel promo does.
Okay.
Like I was like referring to him as like, you guys want to hear some of his show? I'll play some of his show. And I started playing Frankie McDonald, that Canadian weather guy. You know who I'm talking about?
No.
Hey, everybody, there's a big storm coming in. So, I mean, that's the shit I was playing. And I was just, it was a joke.
Yeah.
I was putting him over.
But isn't the difference in wrestling, like they're kind of in on the joke? So this guy wasn't in on the joke, right?
Well, dude, it's three sides of the coin. I mean, come on. And I love those guys to death. And they do a great job and they do great numbers. And he knows how those guys are.
Yeah.
He knows that like they have their personas on the show. And I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm going to have some fun with it. And he got all butthurt about it. And I'm like, all right. So he went on his show and he did his thing. And I had to go back on my show and go, look, it was a joke. It was a gimmick.
Right.
Get over it. And then I guess he was on another podcast last week running his mouth again.
Oh.
So I had to go cut another promo on him last week.
Well, this will ever. It's got to be good for both of you though, really, because I couldn't wait to hear that episode. I really, when I saw like your little promo about him like talking shit and how he got pissed, I was like, oh, I got to hear that. I don't know anything about this little rivalry. I got to hear this. I was like really interested in it. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, dude. And look, if it keeps up, I've got ideas.
Yeah.
You know, look, run your mouth, brother, because you don't fuck with a comedian who's a wrestling geek at the same time.
Yeah, great. Well, speaking of comedians, we actually have a mutual guest. We both had Craig Gass on our show.
I love Craig.
Yeah, so he actually does a lot of. It sounds like he did a lot of promos for you.
Yeah, he did, but he didn't do a Kinnison promo.
He didn't?
That's the one I wanted. I didn't even think about it because, I mean, his Kinnison is so spot on.
No,
but
it is
the one I always
on.
play is the Tom Arnold one.
Yeah, it great. It says he likes
hilarious.
fat women.
But
and
yeah,
cocaine.
Craig rules.
Yeah, he was like really nice. I was surprised that he wanted to do my show, but I mean, it was like kind of a quick thing because he had to go on stage, but we just did it like really quick. So yeah, he's like really nice, really freaking funny.
Yeah.
And then you've had some really big names. Well, I don't know if they're big names to everybody. The big names to me, like Ricky Rackman from Headbangers Ball. Like, how did you get? I haven't even listened to that episode yet. Actually, how did you come across him?
I've had Ricky on a couple times.
Oh, okay.
The first time I had him on, because we have mutual friends. And Ricky's now one of my friends.
Awesome.
Which is weird. I mean, that's the shit that weirds me out about this whole thing is like knowing that I'm friends with Ricky Rackman and, you know, like Jeff LaBar from Cinderella and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But that was when they were doing the Cat House festival out here. So I had him on to promote it and yada, yada, yada. But yeah, Ricky's a bro. And the last time he came on, we talked about weather for the first 20 minutes. It was great.
Yeah, because he's got to have some good stories. He grew up in that, the Cat House was like that club in the 80s metal strip. And then like all the legendary stories, like Guns N' Roses started out there and Faster Pussycat and like all those 80s metal bands. So I guess I got to listen to that episode, but hopefully I might fast forward to the weather talk though.
Oh no, dude, it's actually, he's funny. He's like, dude, what are we going to talk about for an hour? I'm like, just wait, wait. And he's like, dude, it really went by fast. That was good. I'm like, I told you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you had Eddie Trunk. How did you get Eddie Trunk? That's like, he is the probably biggest name in rock music in terms of podcasting and broadcasting.
Eddie is, I call Eddie the Howard Stern of rock and roll.
That's a great, exactly. He's probably
Eddie,
him, Howard Stern. Yeah. I was just going to say him, Howard Stern, and probably Conan O'Brien are my three biggest influences in terms of doing interviews.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and I mean, Eddie rules. I got to know Eddie back in my radio. Actually, no, it was before my radio days. When I was writing for that magazine, RX Magazine, where I was a sports and music director. Because I was a fan because, you know, he was on Rockin' 101, which is a station that I ended up being on. And that was, ironically, his very first syndicated station. Oh, you guys were on,
but he wasn't at your station. It was a syndicated version.
Yeah, it was the syndicated version.
Gotcha.
But this is before I was in radio. So I interviewed him for this magazine and I literally asked him 9 questions and he talked for an hour and a half.
That's awesome.
So, it was literally, when I transcribed it out, it was 13 pages long.
Wow.
13 pages long.
And you had to edit it, right?
Then he came to town and I met him and he was super cool. And then once I got into radio, he had his book coming out. And then the first Monsters of Rock cruise happened. So I had him on the air for the Monsters of Rock cruise. And you know, I've been, you know, working with him on all the cruises. We've become really good friends. He's a great guy. That's
really cool. Yeah. There's a lot of Kiss talk in that episode. I know like he's always said that so much. He's talked about that many times on his show about how he's not a big fan of the new version of Kiss, how those members like replaced the other members but use the same makeup. And so
that's a whole nother 3.5 hour long rabbit hole.
Right. Yeah. So, and then another guest that you had, this is a pretty big name too. You had Adam Carolla on your show. How did you get Adam Carolla on there?
The Ace Man will do anybody's show.
Really?
But actually, Adam, I've got I have history with as well from back in the radio days.
Okay.
But Adam's great. He's got this mentality. He's like, look, it's all promotion. I mean, you know, I'll do anybody's show because basically, you know, he's driving home from his studios and he's stuck in traffic.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
do some promotion. Why not? You know, he's smart like that.
That's really smart. Yeah, you guys had an interesting conversation. I don't know if you remember the episode, but you talked about football ads and how some of the ads in the football games were marketed to women. Do you remember this conversation?
Oh yeah. Oh, my God, it was so long ago. That was it was Adam Carolla and Sienna Sinclair. I think that episode was.
Yeah.
But I don't remember anything about that. But yeah, I do remember something about bringing that up. But 'cause I know he's always got great thoughts on that stuff.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And then you had his buddy Vinny Tortorich, and that was a great conversation as well. He started out talking about how hot girls being. I'm sure he's talked about this on Adam Carolla too, but how hot girls being funny. Sometimes that they're just attractive girls, and guys laugh because they're attractive and not because they're actually funny.
Yeah, it's like pity laughter. Like, oh my God, she's hot.
Yeah, right.
I should laugh at this because maybe she'll want to do me. No, look, dude. I'm gonna toe the line here, but
smart.
Well, I mean, look, there's funny girls and there's girls that aren't funny, but they're up there doing stand-up comedy. But there's the same thing with guys too. But it's like, you know, it's all material to me. But it's everybody's own, you know, everybody's own taste. It's like I like dick and fart jokes. I like Andrew Dice Clay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like Kinnison. I like Bill Hicks. I like Don Jameson. I like Florentine. You know, those are Dave Attell, Jim Ross. Those are the guys that Jim Norton, because he's a dirty, perverted motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the shit that I find funny, and a lot of gals don't do that type of humor.
Sure. Yeah.
But there's some gals that do that, but they like push it too far, and it's almost like they're trying too hard to do that to win over the male crowd. But like I've had Kate Quigley on, and she does that kind of humor, but she's fucking hilarious. Has nothing to do with the fact that she's hot. But
I'll have to check that one out. I'm not.
But comedy's all personal taste.
True. Very true. Yeah.
Well, look, Andrew Dice Clay talked about this, and you know it was on one of his records, and he was harsh, but you know he made a good point. It's like in school, who was the class clown? It was the guys, because they wanted the attention.
True.
You know.
Now, when did you start doing stand-up comedy? Because you do stand-up comedy yourself, right?
I started, I think it was 4 years ago. I put together a 3.5 minute set, 5 minute set or something like that. I went down to an open mic. I'm like, well, fuck it. When in Rome.
You opened up for a fellow comedian. The guy was also on that metal show, Don Jameson, right? You're friends with him?
I did. That was my second time doing stand up ever. And that was on the Monsters of Rock cruise when he was opening up for Chip Z'Nuff's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, Izzy, you still got your 5 minutes? I'm like, yeah. It's like, go do it. I'm like, oh, all right. And I did.
Nice.
Hello.
So you're still doing that then.
Yeah, and actually, I'm opening up for him
that's
the
coming
night
up, right?
that we get off the mega cruise. And
Perfect.
That's next Friday night.
Cool. So, of all the guests that you've had, do you have a personal favorite guest, or like maybe a best interview that like if people were going to check you out?
Jeff LeBar is always hilarious.
LeBar from Cinderella, the band Cinderella, right?
God, listen to those episodes. You'll piss yourself.
Really?
I always say, dude, it's like you're the Ace Frehley of Cinderella. He's like, I don't get what that means. Like, you got the accent and you're fucking hilarious.
Okay.
And then another one was Johnette Napolitano from Concrete Blonde. I
remember that band
for like
from
6 years, and I was actually more nervous about interviewing her and getting her on the phone than I was when I interviewed Ace Frehley.
Wow.
And Ace Frehley is my god.
Oh, so you did actually get Ace Frehley on your show?
Yes and no. I recorded it for when I was doing mornings on the Monsters of Rock radio channel.
Oh.
But they're like, yeah, go ahead, play it on your podcast. So I did.
Oh, cool. That's very cool.
But Johnette was great because it was ironic. We talked for about an hour and a half, and I think we talked about Concrete Blonde for 5 minutes.
Wow.
She was, go back and listen to that episode. It was a year ago yesterday, I believe.
I'm trying to remember. I remember their song Joey. That was a great song.
Yeah. Oh, dude, Concrete Blonde is fucking amazing. And in my mind, Johnette is the greatest, not female vocalist, the greatest vocalist I've ever heard in my life.
Wow. That's a pretty big compliment.
Yeah.
So kind of piggybacking on the best interview, what was what's the worst interview that you've had? Or maybe not necessarily like the worst guest, but maybe like you just weren't on your A game or something?
Oh my God, I got to think about that. I can't think of any specifics, but and I mean, you do this, so it's like it's always tough when you get somebody that doesn't really talk.
Right.
You get like short answers out of them. It's like, come on, expand on that.
Yeah, they're not storytellers.
They're not storytellers. Kip was tough, but Kip was hilarious at the same time. Because I was pretty nervous about interviewing Kip.
Kip Winger from Winger?
Kip Winger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though I know him, I was still kind of nervous because I'd never interviewed him before. But so that one was kind of tough and it's tougher when it's on the phone. It's so much easier when you're in person.
Yeah.
Because you can read off of, body language and yada, yada, yada.
True.
Because you don't know when somebody's going to stop talking if they're on the blower.
Right. That's true. That's a good point.
But no, Kip was great. Don't get me wrong. Kip was amazing.
Yeah.
I don't think I was at my best with that one.
Okay. So besides musicians and comedians, you've also interviewed some porn stars. Tell me about that.
Oh, yes.
Is that weird? Is that awkward anyway? I mean, I think on your last one you said, I hope my mom's not listening. Like, I hope my mom's not listening to these episodes, by the way.
No, porn stars are great. Porn stars are amazing because, they play the role of the porn star when they're on the mic. It's like getting a wrestling guy in character,
Have you had that, by the way? Have you had any wrestlers on your show since you're a wrestler guy?
I've had RVD came on, Rob Van Dam, and DDP came on. And then, this week I had Big John.
I don't know any of those people because I don't know wrestling, but I know a lot of people. I have some friends that are really into it, so maybe they would.
Yeah. Well, Big John just kind of got back into it.
Okay.
Big John was Bret Michaels' personal security guard.
Oh, that'd be a fun job.
And so he was on Rock of Love, and he toured with Poison and a whole bunch of bands and did security, a whole bunch of bands. But he used to wrestle back in the 90s, and then he fucked his neck up and he got gun shy. And now he's back in it with I can't remember the promotion's name, but his group is called the Five Most Wanted. So he was just on this week, and Big John's great.
Yeah. So do the porn star episodes, are they higher rated than some of the other episodes?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That
because
just goes, sex
sex
sells, I guess, huh?
Their perverted fans want to hear it.
Okay.
And,
right.
I love having them on, though, because they're funny and they're witty. And like I said, they're in character.
Moving on to music. Your favorite, I know Kiss is one of your favorite bands, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, obviously Ace, you're in an Ace Frehley cover or tribute band, I guess you would call it, right?
Correct.
It's called Ack. And can you tell me about that? Because that's a very specific kind of cover band. I mean, I've heard of, obviously there's Kiss cover bands or tribute bands, but it's very specific to only Ace Frehley songs, and not only his songs in Kiss, but his solo songs as well, right?
Yeah. When I started it, it's like, God, there's just there's new Kiss tributes that pop up every week. It's like Nashville chicken joints in LA, 5,000 of them pop up every month. It's like, dude, it's been done. It's just so been done.
Right.
And I'm like, fuck it. I mean, if I'm going to do this, it's like, let's do it. Let's do it fun. Let's do Ace. And that way we can play some of the solo stuff and the stuff that he wrote in Kiss, and some of the stuff that he plays live from Kiss that he didn't write. And I started with a cat by the name of Minnesota Pete Campbell, who's a drummer for a band called Pentagram, which is like, they came out in the 70s. Now Pete's young. He's not one of the original guys, but Pentagram is basically America's Black Sabbath, because they came out in like 1970, like right around Sabbath was breaking here. So I started it back home, and I got a bunch of guys back home I play with, and then I came out here and I recruited Chad Stewart from Faster Pussycat and Johnny Martin from LA Guns, and now we got Alex Kane from Life, Sex, and Death, and Enough's Enough. That's a pretty
good band then. I didn't know all the other members. Those are pretty big names, actually. I mean, to me, to people who know that scene. So that's very cool.
I look at it this way. I get to play Kiss songs with my friends.
Exactly. Yeah. And are you guys the only Ace Frehley tribute band are out there?
I think there's a couple others, but I mean, we don't get to play that often because those guys are always on tour.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So what are your other favorite bands besides Kiss?
Richie Kotzen.
Oh. And so
Richie
you're a fan of the
Kotzen.
Winery Dogs?
I love the Winery Dogs.
Yeah. That pretty much
But
is Richie Kotzen, right?
Yeah, well, it's I love the Dogs, but Kotzen's solo stuff moves me. I mean, I've sat down and just go on YouTube, and he posted this. He's got this DVD from 2015 from Japan live, and you don't know how much Jack Daniels I've drank to that. It just, it's like you're in that mood, and those songs are so moving, and so you feel what inspired that song. And he's and the stuff that he recorded, like his greatest hits, I think that was what that tour was from. I mean, that whole record is him. Everything. Guitar, bass, drums, keys, vocals, everything.
Wow.
And the dude's a savant.
Yeah.
He's the White Prince, and he grew up in Philly, so he's got that, that Philly soul in him.
Yeah. He was in Poison too for an album, right? I really like that album, The Native Tongue.
Yeah. Yeah, that Poison record. Yeah, the one Poison record he was on. But he wrote a lot of that.
Yeah, good stuff. Cool. And so, and then like you said earlier, you do an organized jam session at the Lucky Strike Live in Hollywood. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, I'm the MC. I'm the pretty face on stage. It's put on by a guy by the name of Steve Ferlazzo, who is the music director and keyboard player for Avril Lavigne.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's once a month. It's an all-star jam type thing.
You had some pretty big names. Jackson Browne showed up, and Bill Ward from Black Sabbath.
Oh yeah, Jackson came down and did an entire set for free. There's no cover.
Did people know he was coming, or he just popped in, or
what's that?
Did people know he was coming, or he just popped in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's still very cool.
Oh no, it was awesome, and he was so nice. It was so cool. Yeah, we've had some big names. I mean, Nuno plays there all the time. Kotzen plays there.
Okay.
Ginger Baker's kid played there. God, who else have we had? I'm just trying to think. There's been so many.
That's neat.
But yeah, dude, it's awesome.
And then tell me about, you talked about this too, the Monsters of Rock cruise. So it sounds like an awesome gig, because you basically get a free cruise and you get to hang out with all the bands. I mean, that's like a dream gig. How did you land that? You said you knew somebody that you used to work with that got you that job?
What happened was, it started when I was at Rockin' 101. And I was the promotions guy for Rockin' 101. And I came across a cruise, and it was the very first one. So we went through this company to do a trade deal to get a cabin to give away. And we ended up being the very first station in the country to do anything with them. So they called us and thanked us and said they invited us on. So the first 2 years I was there, with the radio station and, just helping out anything they wanted us to do. And then I'm like, dude, I got ideas. And Larry Morand, God bless him. I mean, he listened to me, and he's like, all right, I love it. And I told him, it's like, well, here's the thing. I'm moving to Los Angeles, so I'm not going to be part of the radio station anymore. He's like, you seem like you have good sea legs. You want to do all 3 cruises? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And that was 2014 was my first run with my good friend Brian Ott, who we host a karaoke together, and I'm the pretty face on stage. He's the DJ, and we kind of do it like, imagine Dick's Last Resort meets the Gong Show.
Okay. Yeah.
That's kind of how we run it. It's just no holds barred.
Okay.
But it's all in fun, of course.
Yeah.
We're not assholes to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So it just worked, and then on the Monsters cruises and on this Megadeth cruise, which we leave on Sunday for, I host a jam for the cruisers, so the cruisers get a chance to get up and play, and I get to mix the artists in with them. It's pretty cool.
That's very fun. Yeah. So you get to go for free, and everything's paid for, right?
Oh yeah, I get paid.
That's
awesome.
Get paid. That's very cool.
It's awesome. I am so thankful for that gig.
Yeah.
And cabins are still available for I think is it February is the next Monsters of Rock cruise. Go to monstersofrockcruise.com. I'm going to get into Gene Simmons mode here for a second. Go to monstersofrockcruise.com. Check out the cruise. Get yourself on the cruise, and you can hang out with rock stars and Izzy Presley.
That sounds like a lot of fun. If I can afford it, I'm in. I'm going to do that. I've never been on a cruise either, so I think
this is the thing. this is the thing. I had never been on a cruise before either, and it ruined every cruise for me. I do not want to go on a regular cruise ever.
Yeah, because you're hanging out with all these rock stars, and you get a little bit of the VIP treatment because you're hosting.
Yeah, well, look, it's not it's cool to hang out with people that were on my fucking wall when I was a kid, but it's the people, the cruisers, because it's literally a big family. Every year it's like a family reunion. There's never any fights. Everybody's there for the same reason. Everybody loves each other. We're just there partying and having a good time and enjoying the music and remembering our youth. And that's what it's all about. It's fucking great, man.
That is great. So, you hang out with all these other bands. Do you know of any like kind of up and coming rock bands that no one's heard of that are you following that scene, the newer bands?
No, not really.
Like you haven't heard Dirty
I'm
Honey
stuck
or
in my
Rival
old
Sons
age.
or any of those?
Rival Sons, I mean, I don't really dive into them, but Dirty Honey's supposed to be really good.
Yeah.
And I know about them because of Eddie Trunk.
Yeah, I was going to say,
it turns
Eddie
out that
Trunk
one of the people that plays at all the jams is their bass player.
Right.
So
they're
I should
opening up
probably
for Guns
get
N'
to know them.
Roses. Yeah, sorry.
There
No,
you
I
go.
was just saying that Dirty Honey's opening up for Guns N' Roses in Vegas. I'm
Yeah,
going to go see them
yeah.
in
Their
Vegas.
bass player, Justin, I know him. I didn't even realize that he was in the fucking band.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, I heard you say the other day too that you're friends with Ian Karabi. Is that John Karabi's son?
Yeah.
So because John Karabi was once the singer of Motley Crue. So how did you become friends with his son?
John's on the cruise every year.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I got to know his son because I know John's ex-wife, Valerie, who was on the cruise one year with Ian, and that's how I got to know him. And Ian's great. I love him.
That's very cool. So my last music question, is there any guilty pleasures or music styles that you like that maybe aren't rock that you're kind of ashamed of? Or
I'm not ashamed at all. I fucking love Barry Manilow.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. I would not have pictured you as a Barry Manilow guy or Days of Our Lives, but I'm learning a lot.
I am the only straight man you will ever meet that loves shopping, grocery shopping, Barry Manilow, and Days of Our Lives.
That is an interesting combo for a straight man. You're right. Yeah, that's great.
Exactly. No, I mean, I love country. I love country music.
Well, that's right, because you said you were starting a country band, right?
Yeah. I'm not really ashamed about any of the music I listen to.
That's good.
I don't consider it a guilty pleasure. I mean, everybody knows I love Barry Manilow. How can you not love Barry Manilow? He wrote the songs.
Yeah. Copacabana, that was a great one. I did that karaoke.
Dude. See?
Yeah.
You know all the songs.
I like all sorts of different kinds of music. I just think it's funny when people, you're kind of perceived as a rock guy. So it'd be funny that if you listen to other kinds of music. It kind of might surprise people. I don't know if people knew that, but you said you're not ashamed, so that now they know.
No, not at all. Dude, I like the 70s pop music is just amazing. Amazing.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, just all the 70s rock. I mean, the 70s was an amazing decade for music, like everything about it, like the folk rock. I'm not as big a fan of the dancing disco stuff, but everything else.
I do love the fucking Bee Gees, though.
Yeah, they're pretty catchy songs. They're still staying the test of time.
Talented. So talented. And Peaches and Herb, are you killing me? Are you kidding me? Peaches and Herb.
Yeah,
and,
Reunited, and it feels so good.
And Seals and Croft.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Is that kind of your era, was the 70s then?
I was born in 72.
Okay. So, yeah, you were a kid in the 70s. And
Yeah.
Okay. So you got some other things going on. Are you still developing this movie? Or are you writing it or producing it? It's a World War II love story. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I can't get really too far into it because it's still in the writing process. But I mean, we decided to turn it into a series.
Oh.
And we've got the pilot written. I just don't know how to take the next step.
Gotcha. Who are you working? Can you say who you're working on it with, or?
It's based off my friend Joe, off of his grandpa.
Okay.
Because what we have from his grandpa, from World War II, and then we have a mutual writing friend by the name of James. What the fuck is his last name? James. Well, just call him James.
Okay.
He's not anybody like famous anybody.
No,
know,
okay.
But he's very, very talented writer.
Oh.
So, he's when he came in and we told him what we had, he's like, I need to sit down because you do not realize what you have here.
Oh, wow.
Now
I can't wait to see this.
I just don't know how to take the next step because it's LA. Everybody has a script.
Sure. Yeah. It sounds like it's kind of like with your podcast stuff, though. It's kind of who you know. That's how you got all the guests, like networking. Probably the same thing with the movie and TV stuff, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
At least you're in the right city for that. At least you're not in Minnesota trying to do that. That'd be a lot harder.
Right. Exactly. Or Sheboygan.
Yeah. So, your life philosophy, I read this on your bio that have fun, live your life, and don't be a douche. Tell me what that means to you. Is just that what it is? Like very simple, or is there a deeper meaning to that?
Straightforward, man. It's like, dude, have fun, live your life. Don't let anybody tell you what you're doing wrong. And then just don't be a goddamn dick.
Yeah.
Have
you experienced a lot of dicks in LA? Either on the podcast or doing ride shares?
Maybe on the trannies, but honestly, I haven't. Everybody's got this this stigma about LA. It's like, yeah, everybody's fucking douchebags out there, man. Everybody's a dick. Everybody's got an agenda. I haven't found that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I hang out with the rock crowd. I don't go to the clubs. That's where the douchebags hang out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, I seriously, I have not really encountered it.
It's interesting. So I don't know if you know, my background is in education. I spent 17 years working in the schools, and then I'm starting to get this podcast off the ground. And so I guess I'm technically in the entertainment business. I mean, I'm on the very bottom pond scum but just having the few interactions I've had with musicians and comedians, they're so nice. It's very bizarre. I'm not used to like everyone being over the top nice. And the ones that, like when I ask people to do my podcast, like if they don't want to, they don't say anything mean and they just ghost you. They just ignore you. Right. But like, and then the people that say yes, they're like, they're so over the top nice. Have you kind of experienced the same thing when you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like with John Nat, I mean, it took me 6 years. And now it's like we email back and forth all the time.
So was he saying no?
Sometimes it just takes time. Look, here's a good example. Even though he hasn't been on the show yet, about a year ago, Fozzy was playing at the Whiskey, and one of my roommates knows Jericho, so we were with Jericho at the Rainbow afterwards. And I'm like, dude, I'm sorry about bugging you all the time about doing the podcast. He's like, hey man, persistence is what it's all about. It's like, I'll do it. It hasn't happened yet. But he said he'd do it.
Yeah, I've had that experience too. And now I've learned that I can't tell anybody who my next guest is because sometimes somebody will say yes and I get really excited. I'm like, oh, this is a big name. I can't believe this. And then I'll try to follow up with them to schedule it, and then they just ghost me. And I'm like, oh, I guess they don't want to do it.
Well, sometimes they get busy too.
Yeah.
Sometimes they forget.
Yeah. It happens. But yeah, for the most part, I don't think no one's ever just like told me like, oh, your podcast sucks, screw you. And like, or told me like, they've never been like a dick about it. Everyone's either just, like I said, either kind of ghosted me or they've said yes. And then they've been like almost over the top nice about it. So I kind of like that part of this, working with musicians and comedians and those kinds of people.
Yeah.
And maybe it's too because they're living their dream. So they're really happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Unless you catch them on a bad day.
Oh, have you got some stories there?
Oh, no.
You haven't had any, like on the Monsters of Rock cruise, you've never seen some rock star tantrums or anything crazy like that?
Oh, we had a Sebastian Bach meltdown on stage once.
Really? I love Sebastian Bach.
I do too. And Sebastian, and I'm not ripping on Baz at all. I don't know him.
Yeah. I met him twice and he was super nice to me. I mean, it was like a fan meet and greet, but he was still really cool.
The thing with Sebastian, and I've had this conversation on the air with people
that
know him, and he's sober Sebastian and has 3 bottles of wine in him. Sebastian are 2 different people. It's Jekyll and Hyde.
Really?
Sober Sebastian is fucking great. And like I said, I do not know Sebastian. So I guess, because I'm not a friend, I've never been a friend of his when he's drunk and been around him and having fun, yada, yada, yada. But it happened on the Monsters cruise. We were doing the Motor Bowie jam because it was right after Bowie and Lemmy had died. So Larry had me put together this all-star Motorbowie jam. And I asked him to sing. He's like, I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. Then all of a sudden he decided he wanted to sing. So he came up, which is great. But then also he's like, dude, he fucking grabs the mic. He's like, who the fuck is this guy with the camera? He's following me all over the place. Get him the fuck out of here. It's like, and I'm standing on stage right next to this. So I'm just like, this is actually happening right now.
That was actually a really good Sebastian Bach impression.
Hold on. Let me say this. He did apologize to him later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you see his latest meltdown on Twitter?
Yeah.
And then he apologized for that too, but
yeah,
it was kind of weird.
Look, at least he's taking responsibility and saying, look, I'm sorry. I was having a bad day. I apologize. I didn't mean to come at you like that.
That's true. We've all had those days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy. You ever had those days? You ever had a bad day where you're taking it out on someone else? Or?
I try not to. I really try not to. I mean, I wear my emotions on my sleeve.
Another thing that, that is really cool that you do, I always end my podcast with a charity or some sort of cause. And I read this on your bio that you're involved in the Bulldog Rescue charity, and you have every guest sign a bottle of Jack Daniels, and then you auction that bottle off and you donate 100% of the proceeds to sponsor a Bulldog.
Yeah, well, I had very early on in the show, I had a couple gals on from that because I love bulldogs. I've never owned one. I've only petted one once, but I love them. They're just so damn cute.
Yeah.
So the first one I did, I donated to them. God, was it the first or second bottle? One of the bottles I donated it to the DO Cancer Fund. So I kind of switch off. One of them, I donated all to a GoFundMe for one of my friends who is having heart problems and heart transplant and going through all that shit.
Wow.
So, I mean, everyone, it does go to a charity or somebody in need, it's not giving back a ton, but it's giving back a little bit, and it's, it feels good to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, even a little. I mean, especially like, in our stages right now where we are with our podcasts and stuff, it's like we can only do a little, but hopefully we grow our podcast and then we both get huge and become giant famous people and then we can give back millions, right? Isn't that the dream?
Right. Yeah. But like I said, it ain't happening unless you're already famous, brother.
Yeah. You never know though.
You never know.
It's an uphill. It's an uphill battle. Yes. But
what's that?
It's an uphill battle. But in the meantime, isn't it just fun doing? I'm having a blast right now talking to you. Like I don't know.
Oh, dude, it's great, man. It's great. It's like when I do my solo show, the Izzy Presley show.
Yeah.
I just love venting.
Yeah.
I just love venting.
So that's different.
When I'm at my best.
Yeah.
Alone. If I'm pissed off about something and I can just go and go and go. That's when I'm at my best.
So that one's different than another effing pod. So another effing is just going to be more of the interviews, and then the Izzy Presley show is going to be more like you venting and going on rants and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm still if I don't have a guest lined up, I'll have my roommate Matt come up. And Matt was with Interscope Records, and he was. I don't know if you listened to the Van Halen episode that we did about a week ago.
No.
That was that we did that on the Izzy Presley show. It was supposed to be on another effing podcast, but I forgot to switch them.
Okay.
So when it broadcast live, it broadcasted under the Izzy Presley show. But it's the Izzy Presley show now does have its own iTunes, because I think what happened is when I started doing the Izzy Presley show in conjunction with another effing podcast, it affected the numbers in the podcast because it got away from what another effing podcast was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think people just wanted the interviews, they wanted music talk, they wanted stuff like that.
Right.
And then when I started talking about stories, and it just kind of took away and it brought those numbers down. Plus, and that's something you can't do. You got to stick with what you do because there are literally 900,000 podcasts on iTunes.
And you're just another fucking podcast.
And I'm just
I just love that
podcast.
Name. One thing I forgot to ask about, we're going back to music. You interviewed Robbie Crane the other day. And again, if people are not into the 80s rock scene, they probably have no idea who this is. But this guy was a bass player for Vince Neil, Billy Idol, Rat. He's in the Black Star Riders right now. But I thought you were going to ask him about what happened with Vince Neil and him, because I heard, I swear, and I might have read this 20 years ago in Metal Edge, but wasn't there a big riff with him and Vince Neil? Like he got fired? Or am I thinking of Vicky Fox, or was it both of them?
I don't know.
Okay, but he didn't say anything on the podcast about
nothing came out. The way it made it sound is like, dude, him and Vince are cool.
Okay.
Because he had nothing but good things to say about it.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. So maybe I was just confusing that with Vicky Fox, and maybe Metal Edge just totally, went off the deep end on that and just wanted a story. I have no idea, but I always wondered about that. I was like, what happened? Why did he get out of the band? But probably sometimes it's just creative differences, or maybe even if there was something that 20 years go by, everybody forgets about it.
Right. Or Vince went back to Crew.
Yeah, that was a piece of it too. Yeah, that's a big piece of it. So, is there anything else before we wrap up that you want to promote? Or you got another effing podcast, your Izzy Presley show, Monsters of Rock Cruise, ACT, the Ace Frehley tribute band, the Lucky Strike Live jam session in Hollywood. Did I forget anything?
Yeah, dude, just follow me on fucking everything.
Everything. Twitter,
at
Facebook,
Real Izzy Presley.
Instagram. You're on all that shit.
Yep. Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, at Real Izzy Presley. Then the show page for Another Effing Podcast is Another Effing Podcast.
Right, yeah. I'm on all that stuff too. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I think I have like 10 Twitter followers. Twitter's hard to get followers, it seems like.
It is.
Strange.
I mean, unless you have tits and sometimes a cock.
Or fame, I think that, or talent.
Or fame. Fame helps. Fame helps. Yes.
But, okay. Well, thank you so much, Izzy, for doing this podcast. I really appreciate it.
Of course, man. Anytime you want.
Okay. Very cool. I hope to look forward to, maybe we can hang out in the future. Do you have an actual studio in LA, or how do you do your podcasts there?
My quote unquote studio is my bedroom. So all the porn stars have been in my bedroom. Bobby Brown has been in my bedroom.
And the rock stars as well, huh? That's pretty cool.
Rock stars as well, but most importantly, the porn stars and Bobby Brown.
Okay, you really wanted to hit that home. Awesome. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the new place. The old place, I used to call it the Hurt Locker, which was the name of the guy that lived in that room before called it the Hurt Locker. So, but I should start calling this the Hurt Locker.
Okay, I
like that. It's a great name, the Hurt Locker.
Do you ever post pictures of the Hurt Locker? I want to see this. I'm so curious.
Some.
Okay. Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for doing this. We'll get it out on all the social media, and you could share it and follow both of us on social media.
Yeah, tag me.
Okay. Thanks, man.
That's what she said. Hey-oh!
All right. Bye.
Later, brother.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We got more episodes of the Chuck Shoot podcast, and there's also the Chuck and Josh podcast. We have over 50 episodes of that, so check those out. I'm out.